So welcome back to another video here in Pennsylvania, and welcome to the frontier of the French and Indian War, and also my childhood stomping grounds. Currently making my way up what's called Round Top or Roundhead locally, here in northern Berks County, just north of the town of Bethel, called a trail called 500 Steps. We're gonna go on a little adventure today, go back in time. So I have taken you on this trail before, and a little bit later in this video I'll toss some maps up, show exactly where I am and some different areas I'm going to be referring to in this video. I often called this mountain my mountain growing up, because I grew up in a valley just below us. Alright, but we gotta keep going. I'll tell a little bit more of what I have planned once we get a little higher up. And once you get to this little stone monument for the Blue Mountain Eagle Climbing Club, you're finished with the easy part. And the more difficult part starts up ahead, where it gets more rocky and the actual steps are. Alright, so I'm going to toss an initial map up showing you the general area of where I'm at. You'll be able to see a round top on the map, or sometimes called round head. I'll have an arrow pointing to it, but you should be able to see. I'm not sure if the town of Bethel will be on that map or not, but it'll give you a general idea of where I am, north of Bethel along the Blue Mountain. Alright, and then in a little bit here I'll put up another map that shows the area zoomed in quite a bit more. You can see, you'll be able to see how, well, even in the previous map, you can see how Roundhead kind of juts out a little bit to the side. There's a little valley next to it that goes up in between the main chain and where the Roundhead juts out a little bit. Yeah, but remember, I've talked a lot in our French and Indian War series how the Blue Mountain was the frontier. This side that I'm on was where the settlers were, and on the other side was considered, Indian territory. Although by the 1750s, some had started to settle on that side. But then when the French and Indian War broke out and there were hostilities between the settlers and the Native Americans, most of them fled back to this side of the mountain chain. And just down below here, I think I'll point it out on that map, is where Fort Henry was located. One of the forts, the chain of forts along the Blue Mountain, was down here. And in fact, there's Fort Henry Road down here. And Fort Henry Road used to be called the Old Shamokin Road, that led up to what is today called Sunbury, where Fort Augusta was. It used to be called Shamokin. But prior to being called the Old Shamokin Road, it was the Tulpehocken Path. It was a Native American path that came up from down near Womelsdorf, where Conrad Weiser used to live, and it made its way up the Blue Mountain here. I think we've talked about that in previous videos. Let me toss that map up for you now. So that gives you a little bit better idea of the layout of the area. So I'm going to continue on my way up the steepest part here to the top, where it's actually labeled as 500 steps on the map. We've been up there before, like I said. One of my favorite spots to go. But I'm on a mission as well, and I'll wait till later. Once we get to the top, I'll tell you what my mission is. Well, there's another lookout I'm going to go to as well. It's one of my favorite lookouts up here. Anyway, you'll see when I get there. I'll show you some things. And I'll be able to show you where the Tulpehocken Path was and things like that. But like I said, I'm looking for something too. We'll save that till when we get to the top. Not sure if we'll find it or not. Anyway, let's get to the top. This is the most difficult part. And this is why it's called the 500 steps. There are some crude steps that go all the way to the top. Sometimes they're in some places they're in better condition than others. I think many years ago there was much more here to them. I think up here at some point I found concrete and some old railing at one point. But anyway. As you can see, it goes, it continues on up through that rock field. It's pretty steep up to there. See, like right here are some remnants of concrete or some mortar in between the steps from decades ago, I think. Alright, let's get to the top. And the steps go ever upward, but you can see Get an idea of how steep we are. I'm holding the camera level, but we are getting some elevation. That's the chain of the Blue Mountain going that way. There's a little valley in between here, which we'll talk about later. Looking down. Like I said, this was the frontier back in the 1750s. Down there in that valley. I grew up down that valley too. Just down over in there. There's another view. Once again, the Blue Mountain goes along that way. Of course, looking down through here, it probably doesn't look a whole lot different than it did way back then. Almost there. And here we are at the top of the 500 steps. There's the Appalachian Trail. It's right up here too. Whew. And there's a view here. I'll turn around in a minute. Yeah. There you go. I'm gonna take a seat here. I'll get back with you in a minute. Gonna take a break. All right, so we made it up. Of course, down below us, I talk about the old, Topahakan path. It's down below us, and it actually comes up and goes up to the mountain over there. We'll get a better view of that later. There's another vista I want to take you to, but of course, Route 501 is down below us too. That's where I parked. Because I grew up just out there. These trees kind of in the way here. But yeah, like I said, this was the frontier. And during the French and Indian War, of course, like I said, Fort Henry, it was just down below us along that old Topahakan path. Later was called the Old Shamokin Road. If you remember that picture I showed you, there's kind of a gap in the mountain going up this way. Not a complete gap, but it's an area that's much more easier to come up through that way. I'll put a map up again a little bit later once we get to the next overlook, but I believe that's where the Indians attacked through this way and attacked the settlers in this area during the French and Indian War. That's why Fort Henry was built down below here. And recently a book was given to me on the Pennsylvania and New York frontiers. It was dated from 1720 to the Revolutionary War era. Of course, they tell a lot of information about the French and Indian War in that book. I'm almost done with that book. It's a good book. But it's a little section talks about Fort Henry. It mentions something else, that somewhere up on this mountain, like a little platform, like an area was made to view the valley. I don't think it was this valley over here. I think it was the valley right in between Roundhead and the Blue Mountain chain. And I think, because Fort Henry itself is not right on the old Shamokin Road, or the Topahakan path. It was kind of a little ways up this valley a little bit. Because I think from what I understand, I think the Indians were coming down that valley. Let me throw up another map and show you what I'm talking about. But having read that little snippet about that little, like a little shelf was made in the mountain here. The mountain's pretty steep, but they make it like a little shelf and make it like a little platform. And I remembered, when I read that, it triggered a memory that I had remembered reading somewhere else in some obscure place online, that someone else was exploring up here, decades ago, and they found something similar to that. Like an artificially made shelf in a mountain. They were wondering what it was for, and it kind of matches that description in the book. So that's what we're going to kind of look for it a little bit. But I'm going to go to that other vista first. It'll give you a different view of this valley. You'll be able to see the mountain chain going that way. It's one of my favorite views up here. And then we're going to snoop around and look for that shelf. Even on my way up, I saw some areas down there that looked intriguing. But anyway. So we'll say farewell to this vista. I took a nice little break here from our trip up. Right down there is the way down, the Blue Blaze Trail, the 500 steps. But right behind us is the Appalachian Trail. It kind of comes down here, and you stop here and take a look at the view, take a little break on your trip, and then they continue on that way. You can see the white blaze there. So we're going to take the Appalachian Trail to the west here, which you can stay on this section. It'll take you to Route 501. But there's a neat, like I said, another overlook up this way, which I love. I have not been to it for a while. Like I said, it also gave us a much better view of things, what I'm talking about. So from a French and Indian War perspective, 1755 time era, If I was a settler or pioneer down the valley, right now I would be in hostile territory. No doubt the Indians will come up here in places like that. They could see down across the valley, plan their attacks, because you could see the homesteads. Even if it was still wood, you could see the smoke coming up from people's chimneys. You knew where people lived, plan on who you would attack, things like that, before descending down to actually commit the deed. So we'd be in Indian territory right now. Alright, so I believe this is the area. This is the trail right here, but there's a little side trail. There's a camping spot up here where people often camp on the AT here. I think just below here is where the other lookout is. It's been quite a few years since I've been here. I think this is it. You can see the campfire here. Here's where they put their tents up, things like that. Or if you go back to French and Indian War era, this could be an Indian encampment. You know, looking down over the valley. Or, you know, depending on how things were going, you know, some of the soldiers, the provincial soldiers that were down in Fort Henry, maybe they came up here too on their patrols. It's a nice spot. Yeah, I think, see, there's rocks over there. Let's head that way. I think there's a little trail going over there. I think this is our other lookout. Yeah, this is it. Maybe we'll see the camera on. There's a big boulder field down here. It's a pretty awesome view. Yeah, I love this view. Yeah. All right, so what are we looking at here? Well, this is the top of the Blue Mountain right there. We're looking on top of that mountain chain. And over here, over this way, it's Round Top where we were earlier. And down in here is that valley that comes up. Of course, this mountain chain curves this way and meets up with where we are right now. So it's kind of like a, but it still kind of makes like a valley going up through here. It's kind of an upward valley. But I believe this is the valley where the Indians were coming down to attack. The Tulpehocken path itself ended up coming up through this way. You can kind of see Route 501. There's a line going up through there. Of course, Route 501 at that point isn't following the old Tulpehocken path. But the old Tulpehocken path did come up roughly around in that area up there. Like I said, Fort Henry itself was situated just a little bit back from the path, because I think it was guarding this pass as well, coming up through here. Yeah, there's another, you can see there's another overlook over there. That's where the Appalachian Trail continues on that way too. Just up that way is Route 501 shelter for the Appalachian Trail. So I just love this view of the mountain spine of the Blue Mountain there. And then, like I said, somewhere around here was that little platform, that shelf that was built into the side of the mountain here. Whether it was down in this rock pile, because they would have built it so they could look down into this valley here to see if any of the natives are coming down through here. That's what I believe they're watching, is this pass right up through here, like I said. But we're gonna explore a little bit that way, but also this way too, off trail. Like I said, I saw some intriguing places that way, but we'll see. I never explored off trail here. I did one year explore this rock pile just a little bit, but that's what we'll do in a little bit. I'm gonna take a few pictures and then maybe we'll get to exploring. Love that view though. Just making my way along here. Once again, there's no doubt that the natives use these areas, like I said, just as their own lookout as well. Regardless of where that other platform would have been built by the provincial soldiers of the fort. But man, like I said, you got a view. As we make our way this way more, you can see down the valley that way. You can hear the truck going up 501 there, coming down. Yeah. Not sure how clear or how deforested this area would have been in the 1750s to be able to see, down in there. Alright, so we're going to say farewell to the boulder field. I did explore over there a little bit, but I didn't really see much of interest. Because up there is where the campsite was and the Appalachian Trail. So we're gonna go into the woods. Actually, anyway, I'm looking down there. I almost feel like I see something interesting down there. Kind of want to go down there, but anyway. Oh boy. We'll see. Kind of a spooky section of forest. All these laurel trees are dead in here. Well, not completely dead, but anyway, I didn't go way down below. I kind of stayed up here closer to the top. Of course, what I'm searching for is kind of a needle in a haystack situation. There's a lot of ground up here to cover. I'm not going to cover it all day. I'm just going to explore up top here for right now. See what there is to see. If I can get through this dead laurel forest here. Yeah, there's just all kinds of spots around here that look like they could be that little shelf or platform. Even right down there, there's pine trees. Like a little flat area right there. And it drops off steeply down below. Like that. Is that where it was? I don't know. I guess it could be much further down below where we are too, but closer to where the fort was, that would make sense too. Said we're up here, we're kind of in, you know, hostile territory, but I don't know. All right. I felt like when I was on the AT looking down this way, I thought I saw some interesting stone formations back this way, but now I'm not seeing them. But we're gonna keep going this way. But on the off chance too that someone out there watching this video knows what I'm talking about, where this platform or lookout was, if you wanna let me know. I kind of have my doubts. My foot is stuck. Kind of my doubts, but you never know. That's the reason why I make these videos sometimes, is to see what other people know. Or if you have any ideas, if you've explored this area up here too. There's something up here I'm missing. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Maybe we'll come back. I mean, there's so much there is a whole lot to explore right up here. Yeah, and back this way is our original view. I always loved doing this little hike. If you're coming from 501, like I said, I came up from the bottom, but if you're coming the direction I am now, this overlook just presents itself. You just get closer and closer. I think it's the way, when I first made it up here, this is the way I came. But yeah. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to start making my way back down the 500 steps, but there's a little curve right there, and at that curve that's where some interesting stones were, or some larger rock formations. So that's where I'm gonna head to next. Explore down there a little bit more, a little bit further down. All right, so the trail's gonna take a sharp turn that way, but we're gonna head off this way. Here's one of the stones I was talking about, rocks. Doesn't look as impressive now, but actually I think there's some rocks down below there too. Anyway, we're just gonna poke around here a little bit before we go completely down. Yeah, earlier that other boulder field was over that way and up more. It was all pretty steep here though. Let's see if we can make it down to that rock without getting ourselves killed. Lots of loose rocks here, but I think we should be able to scooch on down there, see what's going on right there. Okay, so that was slightly treacherous going down, but then here's our rock. Kind of just juts out. Careful, I'm gonna fall here, and then you know, we cut some of these branches away. You know, a really awesome view. But here in the spring you still do. Not totally leafed out, but does drop off steeply around this. So I don't know if that shelf or that platform would be down this far. Not exactly sure. Just kind of looking down below there too. And from that other source where I had read about this lookout, I feel like I remember reading that there were even some little, like a stone, structure had been made, like a low stone wall or something. So I'm not sure. There's definitely plenty of stone up here. But anyway, I feel like I need more details as to where it is. It's getting kind of late in the season to go exploring for stuff like that. The vultures are flying right by. Wintertime is probably the best, because now it's going to start to grow in with all the leaves and stuff, and you can't see as far off. But anyway, I wanted to come up here and tell a story and kind of look for it as well. All right, we'll say farewell to this spot. It's kind of a cool spot, but our trail down is over there somewhere, so I think I'm gonna try and make my way over that way. I think people do come down here occasionally. It looks like there's a little bit of trail coming down. All right, I just dropped the rock down there. I'm gonna scooch on over that way. Well, I made it back to the trail down. You can see it right there. That's the other problem. See how steep that is? So exploring up here is just very difficult. Yeah, all right, I think I'll take a quick little break and we'll start heading down. Of course, I'll keep my eyes open on the way down too, off the sides, see if anything catches my eye. All right, we're gonna continue on down, back down into the valley where the settlers are, where it's safe. We're gonna head out of Indian territory up here, hostile territory. So, picture being, a colonial soldier or conventional soldier, and you're up here on lookout or on scout duty, and knowing that, knowing at any moment you could be ambushed or attacked, scalped, and you just want to get back down into the valley where it's remotely safe. Well, not remotely safe, but fairly safe, I should say. Yep, down there's safety. So we just kind of talked about what the pioneer's perspective or the soldier's perspective would be of making your way down here, but what about the Native American? With the Indian making his way down here. Of course, your purpose for coming to this valley would be completely different. You're here for revenge. A lot of the attacks were done by the Delaware Indians, or the Lenape as they're referred to. They were very bitter about things, and they kind of had a reason to be bitter. Lost their lands, the way they were treated, and they took this war as an opportunity to enact that revenge on the settlers who, as in their view, took the land from them. So you'd be descending this mountain with the idea of killing and destroying, the hopes of, getting scalps and things like that to show, your prowess as a warrior, as a brave. Be a completely different purpose. You weren't coming down here to seek safety. Complete opposite of that. You yourself were entering into danger from that perspective. So, depending on who you were and why you're coming down to this valley, you had very different purposes. Well, farewell to the 500 steps. We're going to continue making our way down. A little bit more rocky here, then it gets a lot less rocky on the rest of the way down. And we made back down to that monument. So from here on out, it's a pretty easy hike back to the highway where I parked. So that'll be it then, folks. Didn't really find what I was hoping to find up here, what we were looking for. I didn't have high expectations of finding it. Like I said, it's really, we're not too far from the highway, but it is pretty remote up there and difficult to explore. Like I said, it's getting kind of late in the season to do that, foliage-wise. But, if you don't try, you never will. I mean, we had probably not a high chance of finding anything today, but if you don't search or don't get out and look, there's a 0% chance of finding anything, so you never know. And like I said, there's the off chance too that somebody watching this video might know exactly what I'm talking about and might be able to tell me where to go. Slight chance, but we'll see. Alright, but as always, folks, thanks for coming along on this little adventure, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one, wherever that may be.